Win the War Within. Part 1, The Enemy You Can't See. Opening hook. What if I told you? The greatest battle you will ever fight will never be against another person. Not against poverty. Not against failure. Not against the world. The greatest war is the one happening inside your own mind. Every morning, two voices wake up with you. One whispers, "Stay in bed. You can do it tomorrow. You're not good enough." The other says, "Get up. Fight. Become the person you were created to be." The question is, which voice are you feeding? Because the voice you feed becomes the life you live. Chapter 1, The Young Warrior. Long ago, in a forgotten kingdom surrounded by mountains, lived a young warrior named Kale. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't born into greatness. In fact, most people believed he would never become anything important. Every day he trained with soldiers who laughed at him. Whenever he failed, they mocked him. Whenever he fell, nobody helped him stand. Slowly, their words became his thoughts. "I'm weak. I'll never win. I'm not enough." The battlefield hadn't defeated him. His own mind had. Chapter 2, The Invisible Chains. One night, Kale walked alone into the forest. He carried his sword, but his shoulders were heavy. He looked strong on the outside. Inside, he was breaking apart. He reached an old river and stared at his reflection. Instead of seeing a warrior, he saw fear. He saw doubt. He saw every insult he had ever believed. Suddenly, an old man appeared behind him. His clothes were simple. His eyes were filled with wisdom. He smiled. "Why do you look so defeated?" Kale answered. "Because I keep losing." The old man laughed softly. "No. You lose long before the battle begins." Kale looked confused. The old man pointed at his chest. "The enemy isn't standing in front of you. He lives in here." Chapter 3, Meeting the Enemy. The old man handed Kale a small mirror. "Look carefully." Kale looked. At first, he only saw himself. Then something strange happened. The reflection smiled. Even though Kale didn't. The reflection whispered, "You'll never become great. You always fail. Everyone is better than you. You should quit." Kale dropped the mirror in fear. "What was that?" The old man answered. "That is the voice you've been feeding. It grows stronger every time you believe it." Chapter 4, The First Lesson. The old man picked up two small seeds. He placed one in Kale's left hand, the other in his right. "If you water this seed, it grows. If you ignore it, it dies. Your thoughts work exactly the same way. Every negative thought you repeat is water for fear. Every excuse feeds weakness. Every complaint makes doubt stronger. But courage works the same way. Discipline grows. Confidence grows. Faith grows. Hope grows. Whatever you feed will eventually control you." Chapter 5, The Daily Battle. The next morning, Kale woke before sunrise. Immediately, the familiar voice returned. "Sleep. You deserve a break. You trained yesterday." "For the first time," Kale answered. "No." He stood up. The voice became louder. "You're too tired." He trained anyway. The voice screamed. "You're wasting your time." He kept going. Something incredible happened. The voice became weaker. Not because it disappeared, but because Kale stopped listening. Chapter 6, Small Victories. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Kale wasn't changing because life became easier. He was changing because he became stronger. Every time he kept a promise to himself, his confidence grew. Every time he chose discipline over comfort, fear lost ground. He realized something powerful. Winning isn't one giant moment. Winning is thousands of tiny decisions, made when nobody is watching. Closing, Maybe you're waiting for your life to change. Maybe you're waiting to feel motivated. But motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. The war within isn't won in one day. It's won one decision at a time. One thought at a time. One habit at a time. One victory at a time. Today, the battle begins. And only one side can win. To be continued in Part 2. In Part 2, Kale enters the Valley of Shadows, where he must face fear, anger, pride, and temptation, discovering that every inner enemy has a face. When the War Within Part 2. The enemy returns. Opening hook. They say the hardest battle is the first one. They're wrong. The hardest battle is the one that comes after your first victory. Because that's when the enemy changes his strategy. He no longer attacks with fear. He attacks with comfort. He whispers, "You've done enough. Take it easy. You deserve a break." And before you know it, the warrior becomes weak again. This is where our story continues. Chapter 1: The Quiet Victory. Months had passed since Elias left the Temple of Discipline. His body had grown stronger. His mind had become sharper. People who once laughed at him now admired him. Children copied his training. Warriors respected him. For the first time in his life, Elias felt successful. But success brought a new danger. He stopped waking before sunrise. He skipped one day of training. Then another. Then another. He told himself, "I've earned this." Without realizing it, the old enemy had returned. Chapter 2: The Voice Returns. One cold night Elias woke from a nightmare. Standing in the corner of his room was the same shadow he had defeated months before. It smiled. "I told you I'd be back." Elias reached for his sword. The shadow laughed. "You still don't understand. You cannot kill me. I live wherever discipline dies. Every excuse, every delay, every broken promise feeds me." Then the shadow disappeared. Elias sat in silence. For the first time, he understood. Winning once wasn't enough. He had to win every single day. Chapter 3: The Mountain of Resolve. The next morning Elias returned to his old mentor. The old man looked at him and smiled. "So, you met the shadow again." Elias nodded. "I thought I defeated him." The mentor shook his head. "No. You silenced him. But every day he waits for another chance." He pointed toward the tallest mountain in the kingdom. "If you want lasting victory, climb that mountain. No food. No companions. No shortcuts. Only your mind." Chapter 4: The Climb. The journey was harder than any battle Elias had ever fought. The sun burned his skin. The wind pushed him backward. His legs trembled with every step. Halfway up the mountain, the familiar voice returned. "Turn around. No one will know. You've already proven yourself." Elias stopped walking. For a moment, he almost listened. Then he remembered the man he used to be. The boy who quit. The boy who doubted himself. The boy who believed every lie. He clenched his fists. Not today. And he took one more step. Then another. And another. Chapter 5: The Storm. As Elias neared the summit, a violent storm covered the mountain. Rain poured from the sky. Lightning split the clouds. The path disappeared beneath the mud. Again the voice whispered, "You'll never make it. This mountain is too big. You are too weak." Elias looked toward the summit. He could barely see it. Then he remembered something his mentor once said. "You don't conquer a mountain in one leap. You conquer it one step at a time." So he stopped thinking about the top. He focused on the next step. Then the next. Then the next. Chapter 6: The Summit. Hours later, Elias reached the top. There was no treasure. No cheering crowd. No golden crown. Only silence. For the first time in years, the voice inside his head was gone. Not because life had become easier, But because his discipline had become stronger than his excuses, he finally understood. The mountain had never been his enemy. The storm had never been his enemy. The shadow had never been his enemy. His greatest enemy had always been the part of himself that wanted to give up. Ending. As the sun rose over the kingdom, Elias smiled. He realized that every sunrise brings the same choice. Feed your excuses, or feed your purpose. Feed your fear, or feed your courage. Feed your comfort, or feed your discipline. Because the war within is never won once. It is won every single day. End of Part 2. Win the War Within, Part 3. The Leader Within. Opening hook. A warrior who conquers himself can survive any battle. But a leader must do something even harder. He must help others win the war within. Because the strongest person in the room isn't the one with the sharpest sword. It's the one who gives others the courage to keep fighting. This is where Elias' greatest battle truly begins. Chapter 1: A Kingdom in Fear. Years passed, and Elias became one of the kingdom's greatest warriors. People admired his discipline, his courage, and his wisdom. But peace did not last forever. One autumn morning, dark smoke rose from villages near the border. Crops failed. Supplies ran low. Fear spread through the kingdom faster than fire through dry grass. The people began to panic. Some blamed the king. Others blamed their neighbors. Friends turned against friends. Families argued. The kingdom wasn't being destroyed by an enemy army. It was being destroyed by fear. Elias stood in the marketplace and watched the people lose hope. He realized something. Fear is contagious. But courage is contagious too. The question was, which one would spread first? Chapter 2: The King's Request. The king summoned Elias to the palace. Elias, he said, our soldiers are strong, but their spirits are broken. They have forgotten why they fight. I need you to remind them. Elias looked around the throne room. The king's advisors looked worried. The generals argued with one another. Nobody believed victory was possible. Elias quietly replied, I cannot give them courage. The room fell silent. But I can help them discover the courage that already lives inside them. Chapter 3: The Training Begins. The next morning, hundreds of soldiers gathered, expecting Elias to teach them advanced combat. Instead, he ordered them to put down their weapons. The soldiers looked confused. One stepped forward. How can we prepare for war without our swords? Elias smiled. Because your greatest weapon isn't made of steel. It's your mind. For 7 days they trained without touching a single weapon. They woke before sunrise. They climbed mountains carrying heavy stones. They crossed icy rivers. They meditated in silence. They learned patience. They learned self-control. Many complained. Some quit. But those who stayed began to change. Their bodies grew stronger. Their minds became calmer. They no longer reacted with fear. They responded with purpose. Chapter 4: The Soldier Who Wanted to Quit. Among the soldiers was a young man named Noah. He reminded Elias of himself years before. Every challenge made Noah doubt himself. I'm too weak. I'll never become a great warrior. I always fail. One evening Noah packed his belongings. He was ready to leave. Elias found him standing at the camp gate. Why are you leaving? Noah lowered his head. I'm not good enough. Elias smiled gently. I've heard those words before. They once came from my own mouth. Noah looked surprised. You? Yes. The difference between the man I was and the man I became wasn't talent. It was the decision to keep going. Chapter 5: The Lesson of the Fire. That night Elias gathered everyone around a campfire. He picked up 2 pieces of wood. One was dry. The other was soaked with water. He threw both into the flames. The dry wood burned brightly. The wet wood only smoked. Elias looked at the soldiers. Your mind is the same. If you fill it with doubt, fear, anger, and excuses. Your potential can never burn. But if you feed it with discipline, faith, gratitude, and purpose, nothing can stop your fire. The soldiers sat silently. Each understood the lesson in a different way. Chapter 6: The Battle at Dawn. Days later, enemy forces appeared at the kingdom's border. The soldiers prepared for battle. Fear returned. Some hands trembled. Others stared at the ground. Elias stepped forward. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply said, "Remember your training. Control your breathing. Control your thoughts. The battle outside begins with the battle inside. When fear speaks, answer with courage. When doubt whispers, answer with action. When comfort calls, choose discipline." The soldiers nodded. For the first time, they believed. Not because victory was guaranteed, but because they had already defeated the enemy inside themselves. Chapter 7: Victory Without Pride. The battle lasted until sunset. When it ended, the kingdom stood victorious. The people celebrated. The king offered Elias a golden medal and a title of honor. Elias smiled and respectfully declined. "The victory doesn't belong to me. It belongs to every person who refused to surrender to fear. The greatest heroes aren't those who never fall. They're the ones who rise every time they do." Chapter 8: The Legacy. Years later, children asked their parents about the legendary warrior named Elias. Some said he was the strongest man who ever lived. Others said he was the wisest. But those who knew him best always answered the same way. "He taught us that every day we wake up with two choices: to feed our excuses, or to feed our purpose, to become prisoners of fear, or masters of ourselves." His greatest legacy wasn't the battles he won. It was the lives he changed. Closing. As the sun set over the kingdom, Elias stood alone on the same mountain he had climbed years before. He looked across the land and smiled. The war within had never truly ended. It never would. Every sunrise would bring another temptation, another fear, another excuse, another opportunity to grow. And he welcomed every one of them. Because he finally understood the secret of a victorious life. You do not become great by winning one battle. You become great by choosing, every single day, to fight for the person you are meant to become. So when tomorrow comes, and the voice of fear whispers, "You can't," answer it with your actions. Stand up. Take one more step. Fight one more round. Keep one more promise to yourself. Because the greatest victory you will ever achieve is not over another person. It is over the version of yourself that wants to quit. End of Part 3. When the War Within. Part 4. The Final Battle, Becoming Unstoppable. Opening hook. There comes a moment in every person's life when the world stops testing your strength and starts testing your character. Not everyone will celebrate your success. Not everyone will understand your purpose. Some will doubt you. Some will betray you. Some will try to convince you to become the person you used to be. That is when the greatest battle begins. Because the final enemy is not failure. It is the temptation to become someone you are not. Chapter 1: The Season of Peace. Months after the great victory, the kingdom entered a season of peace. The fields turned green. Children laughed in the streets. Markets were filled with food. Music returned to the city. The people believed the difficult days were over. But Elias knew something they did not. A warrior should never stop preparing because life has become comfortable. He continued waking before sunrise. He trained while others slept. He studied while others celebrated. People began whispering, "Why does he still work so hard? There is no war anymore. Elias has become obsessed." He heard every word. Yet he never changed his routine. Because he understood something few people ever learn. Discipline is easiest to abandon when life feels easy. Chapter 2: The Stranger. One evening, a mysterious traveler arrived at the kingdom. He was charming. confident, well-spoken. Within days, crowds gathered to hear him speak. His message sounded attractive. Why struggle so much? Life is meant to be easy. Success should come without sacrifice. Take shortcuts. Choose comfort. Many people believed him. Even some of Elias's own students stopped training. They preferred easy promises over difficult truths. Elias watched quietly. He knew the greatest lies rarely sound dangerous. They sound comfortable. Chapter 3: The Fall of Noah. Among those who listened to the stranger was Noah, the young soldier Elias had once mentored. At first, Noah skipped one morning of training, then another. Soon he stopped training altogether. His confidence faded. His focus disappeared. One afternoon, Elias found Noah sitting alone by the river. "You don't seem happy," Elias said. Noah looked down. "I thought life would become easier if I stopped pushing myself." Elias sat beside him. "And did it?" "No. I lost my discipline, and then I lost my peace." Elias smiled gently. "The price of comfort is often much higher than the price of discipline." Chapter 4: The Fire Inside. That night, Elias gathered the people in the town square. He lit a single torch. Holding it high, he said, "Look at this flame. If I protect it, it will grow. If I ignore it, it will slowly die. Our purpose is the same. No one else can protect your inner fire. Not your family. Not your friends. Not your teacher. Not your leader. Only you." The crowd fell silent. Each person looked into the flame as if seeing themselves. Chapter 5: The Storm Returns. A week later, the kingdom faced another challenge. Not an invading army. A terrible drought. Rivers dried up. Harvests failed. People became afraid once again. The same voices returned. "There is no hope. We'll never recover. We should give up." Elias climbed onto the city wall and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "We have survived fear before. We have survived doubt before. We have survived hardship before. And we will survive again. Our greatest strength has never been our wealth. It has never been our weapons. It has always been our spirit." Chapter 6: The Lesson of the Tree. The next morning, Elias led the children to an ancient oak tree. He asked, "What keeps this tree standing during the strongest storms?" One child answered, "Its branches." Another said, "Its size." Elias shook his head. "No. Its roots. You cannot see them. But they are the reason the tree survives." He looked at everyone gathered there. "Character is your root. Discipline is your root. Integrity is your root. When life's storms arrive, they don't test your branches. They test what no one else can see." Chapter 7: The Real Victory. Months later, rain finally returned. The rivers filled. The fields became green again. The kingdom celebrated. But this time, the celebration was different. People had learned that hope is not something you wait for. Hope is something you choose. The stranger quietly left the kingdom. His easy promises had faded. But Elias's lessons remained. Because truth always outlives deception. Chapter 8: The Final Message. Years passed. Elias grew older. His hair turned gray. His hands carried the scars of countless battles. One evening, he climbed the mountain where his journey had truly begun. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, his students gathered around him. One of them asked, "Master, after everything you've learned, what is the greatest secret to winning the war within?" Elias smiled. He looked across the kingdom he had helped transform. Then he answered, "The war within is never won forever. It is won today. And tomorrow. You fight again. Every sunrise is another chance to choose courage over fear. Discipline over comfort. Faith over doubt. Purpose over excuses. If you keep making those choices, no storm can destroy you. No failure can define you. No obstacle can stop you. Because the strongest person in the world is the one who refuses to surrender to themselves. Closing. As darkness covered the mountain, Elias stood in silence. His story was never about becoming the greatest warrior. It was about becoming the greatest version of himself. And that same battle lives inside every one of us. Every morning, two voices will speak. One says, "Quit." The other says, "Keep going." The voice that becomes your future is the one you choose to obey. So when tomorrow comes, stand up. Face yourself. Fight with courage. And never stop. Until you win the war within. End of Part 4.